Ladies and gentlemen, I must apologize.
What happened?
I was panicked about a link, and I forgot to press the live stream to go live. So we had the music, we had everything going, and as a conductor, I'm nuts about starting gigs on time. I've never been late, or I was late for one gig once. Now I can tell that story one time. I'm so sorry. It's our 25th episode. That was my first time. And sometimes you see, we're waiting on, a live stream. So I hate to keep people waiting. So I am so sorry. And that was like 4 minutes. Basically, I'm friggin' speechless, which is very rare. So my apologies. Where's my producer? Let's just play. Yeah, they can see now. They couldn't see the other stuff. Let me just blame the producer. Okay. So now we've got Jim. And Jim, let me just change your name to Jim, not Jam.
And Jim, you're vertical.
Yeah, Jim, you're vertical. I swear to God, sometimes.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Way better.
But today has been flawless. No mistakes, no problems. Actually, we're going to call the episode 25 the Messiah of our streams. I forgot to press the live stream because I was worried about getting a link to Tom, who's coming in a minute. So Scott and I were talking, then Carl and Scott were talking, and then Jack said, "Oh, maybe hey everyone, guessing Anthony will be here in a minute." I'm thinking, what? Then I'm looking at the numbers. There's nobody watching. I mean, so again, huge apologies. It's Jim and I know we were taught very young by people that to be always on time. So it's just dreadful. Anyway, so hello everybody. I'm sorry about that. It's I got my friend Tom just came on. We're going to get him on in a second. So we got the link to him, okay? And Jim and Carl are here. We have some records to show and some things to discuss. But I want to spend some time with my great friend Tom Bowes, and we're going to talk all about his playing and show some CDs. So let me get him up here right now because it's late where he is. And there he is. Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. God, this is well past my bedtime.
I know. I'm gonna put up so people can go while we're watching. That's Thomas's website where you'll get to find out all about Tom's recordings. We're going to talk about those in a minute. Just so everyone gets an overview, and Tom will tell us all in a minute. Tom is one of the world's great violinists. He'll shake his head, but trust me, Jim and I know very, very well this young man. When we were at Trinity together, was one of the superstars, very talented, and made great strides at a very early age, and is now just has some of the best recordings out. We're going to talk about those. So, Tom, what time is it in Herefordshire?
Herefordshire. Here we are on the Welsh borders. Yes, in a very, I have to say, a very cool so-called English summer. But I guess you all know a little bit about those. It's coming up for 1:15 in the morning, and yeah, I'm thrilled to be talking. Jim, great to see your face. My goodness.
Yeah, Tom, great.
How fantastic is
it's
this?
It's all Tom. I mean, we were talking about it. We were talking about it on our tech check, and saying it's just remarkable. People stay together on Facebook, but we did a lot of gigs together for quite a few years, and then Tom stayed in England. And Jim was around and then went to the Royal College and did more singing. I came back to Canada, and it was just, but we've always stayed in touch. And we'll tell a lot of people like to hear stories. So we'll tell some stories. And
oh my goodness.
No, not those stories, Tom. Oh, good. I was on the phone with my friend Robert Wolfrey, who's a clarinet player in the Cleveland Orchestra. And he's going to be a guest, right? And I same with Gareth Davis with the LSO, and I promised them no questions. The only guy that asks questions at the very last second is that guy there, Jim. Yeah, come on, go. Oh, before you go, it's 5 a.m. for the poor guy. I got one more question for you.
Well, if I'm here, I want to know.
That's right, buddy.
Answers,
That's right. Anyway, we got some great questions coming up, but first I want to get Tom on large. Okay, Tom, can you tell us a little bit about where you started violin, where you studied, and of course about Katona and things like that, and the School of Hungarian, and go on as long as you like.
Well, so I mean, it's really the story about late beginnings and late decisions. I mean, I was not an early starter. History tends to say that those violinists who everybody remembers were kind of conquering the world aged 10 or younger. No such thing for me. I mean, I came from a household that was cultured and very into the arts. Both parents had experience in music. My mum had sung with the Royal Choral Society a great deal. My dad was a huge music lover, big record collection. So there was music around in the house. And apparently, aged 6 or 7, I asked to have violin lessons. I don't actually remember that, but that's in the family mythology. It's me asking to have violin lessons. My dad, who was headmaster of local junior school, so that's up to age 11s, very much wanted to get music lessons in. I mean, and this was the sort of the apex of music in state schools in the UK. So a wonderful violin teacher was found and was on the county circuit, Mr. Lee, and I studied with Mr. Lee as part of a group of very enthusiastic and very sort of interesting, I suppose, mostly middle class kind of boys and girls. But it was very much part of a basket of things. I sang in the local church choir. I had a lot of interest in sports. I was running. I was playing cricket, football, rugby, and all the rest of it. And really, that went on until my sort of school days. A couple of that group did go on to study at music college, and I can remember going to master classes of this rather mysterious and slightly sort of forbidding and scary character, Bela Katona, who did these amazing master classes with some of his more advanced students at Trinity College of Music. One travelled up on the train to London, which, although it was close by, was a huge and forbidding and amazing city. I had a kind of moment. I just started studying for my A levels, which music was a part of. But I mean, I was sort of thinking, any sort of adolescent boy is kind of, in a sort of hormonal confusion. But through all that, I suddenly had this moment. It must be music, and it must be the violin. And so things were hastily arranged. I was able to leave school. I mean, when I look back, how astonishingly well qualified so many of today's students are. They've all got degrees. They've all done masters. I opted out of all that in order to go and study with Bela Katona at Trinity College of Music. First of all, I had kind of funding from the local authority to do that for a year entering Trinity as a full undergraduate. But that was so I had a kind of year to really get myself in gear, and immediately it was a regime of total immersion. I hopped on a train from the local station to go up to Trinity College of Music twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays, and I would enter this room in, the 3rd floor. Anthony, you'll remember. Jim, you'll remember this building. And one went through the door, and there was this man who had very charismatic, very striking, and here was a sort of a manifestation of deep European culture. It was a little bit like kind of entering the world of Budapest circa 1930 or whatever. And I was given a very clear framework, practice schedule. It was made clear to me that you know, I was expected to work at least 6 hours a day on the violin. Now, you know, this wasn't sort of wandering about trying to find things to do. I had a very clear program, and it was made clear to me that I had a lot of catching up to do. But I guess I was one of those students, because my decision had been very late and had been very clear, and perhaps unlike those people whose talent manifests as a kind of mission very, very early in life, I perhaps owned it more clearly to myself. You know, this was what I wanted to do. It wasn't my parents' idea. It hadn't been something that had been kind of thrust upon me or expected of me. It was very much my decision. And, you know, it meant giving up doing sports in any kind of meaningful way. It meant really a kind of quite severe regime of organizing time, and simply dedicating myself to learning how to make this thing work for me. And so I guess I was a very suddenly, from being a rather kind of dreamy wanderer, you know, in sort of sports and in literature, in painting, all these things I'd done a little bit of. I suddenly became incredibly focused. And I'm looking back, I can sort of see that there was something in that, because I guess I became one of those students who was always hungry for more. You know, if Professor Katona said to me, my dear, you will practice at least 6 hours a day, I would, you know, I would think, right, well, can I do more than that? What time in the morning can I get up? Can I, I must have been some kind of lunatic in a way, but I did have this drive, and that was a marvelous thing. And he gave me such a clear framework of how to harness that, how to focus it, how to use it. Because it's one thing to have a lot of energy and a lot of drive, but unless you're given a clear kind of route map, you know, a lot of that can get scattered and miss the target. So
I was just going to say that Peter Ungian, who was the conductor of the Toronto Symphony for many years, and a very fine orchestral trainer, and he used to be principal violin of the Tokyo String Quartet.
Yeah, wow,
and a lovely man. And we were doing a press thing, and Charles Brown, who's actually was going to be on tonight, but he's going to be on in a couple of weeks. We were standing there, and a lady said, "Go and say hello to Peter." I said, "Oh, okay." So we went up, and Peter started talking. And he said, "Oh, a musician? Yeah. Where'd you study?" I said, "Trinity." He said, "I studied with Bela Katona, a very severe man," he said. And then after Katona, he went to study with Isai, which is interesting. But anyway,
I had no idea that Peter Ungian had studied with Bela. Now, that's another thing about Bela. There was a kind of severity in some respects, but there was also a kind of shyness and a softness and a complete lack of self-projection in his kind of public, but he looked mysterious. I mean, I remember he used to sort of sweep into Trinity wearing his kind of coat and a suit that was cut as if it was from some sort of exotic. You know, he looked like he'd stepped out of Budapest 1930, as I said.
It wasn't as bad as John Tavener, who would come into Trinity with his cape, his white cape, and drive up in his white Rolls Royce, and the chauffeur would let him out, and he'd come in, teach his 3 students, and then off he'd go. Anyway, yeah. So,
well, but you know, one of the most, just to sort of zoom forward a long way, Bela died not long ago. Was it 5-6 years ago? Aged 97.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
I went to see him in hospital probably about 3 or 4 years before that, where he seemed to be sort of ebbing away. And I got a message, and I went to see him, and I gently challenged him. I said, "Bela, you know, we never found anything out about you. You never revealed any kind of personal, you know, it wasn't a touchy-feely kind of relationship, and yet it was absolutely kind of, well, it was perfect for me. It probably wouldn't have suited everybody. You know, people need different things at different times, but for me, it was absolutely perfect." But I think what I was trying to say was that he then acknowledged that in a way it was a deliberate policy. You know, he wasn't available as a friend or as it wasn't a parallel relationship.
He wasn't going to be stroking you. That's right. Do
yeah,
this, then that.
I was the pupil. Yeah,
that's right.
And yeah.
So what happened after? We're going to talk about your recordings in a second. I know that were you leading the seconds in the London Philharmonic on that famous Mahler 8 Tenstedt? Is that the one that you were on?
No, I wasn't leading the seconds, but my first job, what happened was, Anthony, I kind of, I was on this sort of very steep curve upwards, and, sort of fueled by my endless sort of appetite for trying to, trying to play this wretchedly difficult instrument. But I had this sound in my head. I knew how I wanted to what a sort of command one wanted from the instrument. And then, actually, not surprisingly, in about my 24, 25, I got very tired, and I sensed I needed to sort of step back a little bit. And, at that stage, newly married, needing some income, a job in the LPO came up, and I auditioned for it, and I got the position. But it wasn't playing principal second. No, I was a number 4 second violin in the LPO, which was my first professional work. And
but under Tenstedt.
Yeah, well, it was an incredible time. The LPO, it was Tenstedt who was the music director then. But I mean, the list of other names was pretty amazing. It was Schulte, it was Haitink, it was Young Rattle, Walter Weller. I mean, it was a very rich time.
Who was the Russian? Who was the Russian that conducted you?
Oh, that would have been Svetlanov. Yeah,
I remember you telling me he lectured the whole orchestra for 1 hour before they played one note, how to play Russian music.
That's an author and interpreter. He wore this kind of slightly outre sort of leather jacket, and then Olga, or whatever her name was, who always came with him, I was told, and translated everything. And we were given a monstrous bollocking. I remember one morning, I can't remember what the issue was. But, I mean, the whole orchestra literally sat there, and of course it came through translation, so there wasn't quite this immediate transmission. It dawned on everyone that we were being bollocked massively. And it was a whole orchestra of 70 musicians sitting there going, now I understand what's happening. We're very naughty children. Anyway, he did an amazing concert. Actually, he did one amazing concert. He got unhappy. I can't remember what the issue was about something. And the second concert was not so good. He maybe he'd taken a drink or two that afternoon, but he was not funny that evening.
He did he did enjoy working with Western orchestras with the quality. Because I remember seeing him. Jim was with me at the concert. Do you remember that concert he did with the Philharmonia, Jim? And he did Romeo and Juliet. And the ending with the pop, 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 pop. Yeah. He put his hands up like this, like that. That's all he did. And the orchestra played it like so precise, so loud, so beautiful in that horrible hall, the festival hall.
Yeah,
I've never seen anything like it. Like, he's an amazing conductor. But I
think, know what, Anthony, I remember. It's interesting you mentioned that, because I think he had a more developed relationship with the Philharmonia, but with the LPO, he did Francesca da Rimini to finish that first concert, which was absolutely incandescent. And I can remember the last chord of Francesca da Rimini, where there's a huge plagal cadence, and this last chord. And he did this thing where in the rehearsal, he had a high stool, which he sat on a lot of the time. But on that last chord, he stood up on the sort of lower rungs of the stool, making himself sort of 12 feet tall. And, sound, and the sound was colossal.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So let's go from orchestral playing, because we can get back to it, because Tom has led orchestras. I mean, all of them. One gig Tom did was playing with the Academy St. Mars in the Fields. And I remember Tom came over to Montreal, where I was living at the time, with Jan.
I remember that story.
Yeah. I just tell that quick story before we go into your records. But Tom, he's an incredible violinist. And one of my friends in Montreal, Peter, he's a violinist in the Musique de Montréal. He's played the Montreal Symphony, and he played with the National Youth Orchestra Canada. Great guy, still friends 55 years later. And but he was a little bit snooty about violins, and where do you study? So I said, my buddy Tom's coming over. You want to come over? He says, yeah, I'll come over. Sure, great. So I told him, you're training and everything. So Tom came over with it. I think you had a Presenda. You didn't have your Amati violin then, because you can tell us about that.
I wouldn't have had the Amati then. It may have been a lone violin. I can't honestly remember what I might have been playing. But anyway, yeah.
And anyway, it was just so Tom gets over this. So Jan's playing Tom with drink, and I'm drinking. Peter's not drinking that much. So finally I go, why don't you play us some Paganini, Tom? So Tom takes out his violin, hammered, right? And Peter's sitting there. And so Tom starts the one with the left-hand pizzicato. So Tom's playing it, and it is brilliant. It's fireworks, and the sparks come off the violin, and it's like Paganini's in our apartment in Montreal. And I remember Peter Purich's face was like, oh my God. It was just amazing. But anyway, that's the types of quality Tom had. But so Tom, how did we get from orchestral playing and all the films that you've done? I mean, Tom led on Interstellar with who's the composer?
That was a Hans Zimmer score, I think. Yeah.
Hans Zimmer score, yeah. Tom's led, Interstellar. So get your questions ready, guys. But tell us about let me just get these let me get this up. Let me add to the stage here. So there's the first recording, which I think is the best Walton I've ever heard next to Heifetz, and also the Barber. Can you tell us a little bit about that recording, Tom?
Yeah, well, I was desperate to record. I wanted to record something. One of the problems about being a late starter is that it's very difficult to command any sort of attention when you want it, because there's always this younger lot coming on, and of course people love that. But beside the point, I desperately wanted to record something, and I had a very good relationship with Joey Swenson, and at that time he had this relatively young and inexperienced orchestra in Malmo, Sweden, which was the opera orchestra, and I think I must have unpacked these ideas to Joey, and Joey said, "Come to Malmo," So we did a concert performance of the Walton. I think we did the Barber some months before, but I went twice. We set aside, we found a good number of sessions. It was produced by a very dear and sadly now deceased friend, Tony Harrison, who was an inspirational, wonderful editor and producer. And he kind of said, let's get as many sessions as you possibly can. He said, that's priceless, because so much can happen in recording sessions, and what he didn't want to do was to go down the route of it being perhaps the more kind of conventional way, or the established way of getting to results quickly, which can be wonderful. You can do that, but if you just breathe a little bit of space into it, and other things can happen, they can be allowed in. Now, to do that with an orchestra that is fully expecting and ready to do things in a quick way, that can be a problem, because very often people will see A to B, that's a quick route. Why aren't we going that way? Why are we taking time to go over this, or to try and get a longer take of this? That's all about longer takes. I always think that's the key. But so we got several days in Malmo in the Opera House there. Joey loved these pieces. He wanted very much to do the Barber. I think originally I was pressing to do the Britain and the Waltz. But he said, I think I'd feel a bit spare. I would be the let's do the Barber and the Waltz. So that was the Barber in a way was at his bidding. And we'd done it in a concert before. We then did the Walton the week before in a concert performance on the stage in the Opera House in Malmo, and went straight in, the very next day and started recording it. And it's wonderful to hear you saying what you do.
Oh, I love that recording. I love it.
But what was interesting was that the orchestra had no idea about the piece. They'd never played it, and they kind of learnt it. But the curve kind of went up from their point of view, and it didn't stop. That was the marvelous thing. Once their love for the piece had been aroused, it was sort of unquenchable, and it just, it accumulated.
It shows. The orchestra sounds wonderful. How about this one, the Isai? How did that go?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's I'd learned a couple of these fabulous works. I mean, Isai, what a giant. I want to quote something that I found in a book by the first violin of the Guarneri Quartet, Arnold Steinhardt, who, of course, you'll know all about. Buried in his book about quartet life is a wonderful anecdote about working with Arthur Rubinstein on one of their very early recordings. Rubinstein, obviously in his 80s, very old, they very young, and they talked at great length to Rubinstein about all the people he'd worked with. And he said he talked about Casals, he talked about, all the great pianists, all the great violinists, conductors. And right at the end, he said, but next to Isai, they were all like little children. And I think that is such an amazingly revealing thing about an artist whose presence was clearly absolutely colossal. And embedded in those solo sonatas, which I think are a kind of outgrowth of probably his extraordinary improvising, self-taught composer, is that kind of central core of this huge artistic presence. And I adore those solo sonatas. I haven't played them as much. You're often struggling with a non-violinistic audience who don't know who Isai is, and you have to kind of fill that in.
How about that one? How about the Telemann?
Oh, the Telemann. I absolutely love doing these. This was my lockdown project. These little fantasias, which next to the Bach work for violin, always look a little bit slight, but that is the start of it. They are such delightful and astonishingly characterful pieces. There is such wit, such charm, such a kind of panorama of life. This is music you can imagine hearing down the pub, in a court setting, in church. It's just a cornucopia of humanity. Wonderful.
There you go, Tom. Jack, who's one of our regular guests. I streamed this yesterday. Amazing playing. That's lovely to hear.
They're incredible pieces. They are still, I think, very underrated pieces, because everyone, of course, goes to the Bach. Why wouldn't you? But Bach and Telemann, that's a very interesting juxtaposition. I'm talking to, in my research, I went a little bit to a scholar in now, where was the university? In Philadelphia, I think. And he said he thought that the difference between Bach and Telemann was whereas Bach, you've got the say solo up.
It's coming. Finish the story, no problem.
But tends to delve into a medium until it is a complete opus. He said, Telemann has got much more of a kind of butterfly approach, and he will try this and work this out. And so, they are two giants. But my love and respect and a deep appreciation of Telemann was grown colossally, and it started a huge exploration of his chamber music. You talked, I think, about the flute fantasias,
the flute ones, and also the gamba ones.
The gamba ones, absolutely fantastic.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Carl has that recording.
There are things that canonic sonatas. This man's grasp and mastery of counterpoint is extraordinary. We know more about that with J.S. Bach, but I can't talk highly enough about Telemann, because I think he's still not quite understood as being the giant that
Agreed. Yeah. Talking of Bach,
yes.
So tell us a little bit about that magnificent recording, by the way. And if you love violin playing, great recording, audiophile recording, and of course Bach sonatas, solo sonatas, Tom's is absolutely. It's legendary. It's an amazing recording. How did that come about? And what does it mean by say solo?
Oh, well, yeah, that was a bit of a discovery in a way, a bit of detective work. I was always fascinated with this say solo. Why is it called that? This group of 6, huge works. After playing a lot, I devised a sort of, I knew that if I was going to record them, I had to play them a huge amount just to get inside them. So I devised a kind of Bach pilgrimage across the UK, where I kind of offered the repertoire and played it in a lot of sacred spaces, mostly churches. But there was something about the juxtaposition of the spiritual with the kind of temporal that worked in those spaces. And what was really moving was that a lot of these concerts were often fundraisers for, you know, a leaky roof or a project, you know, the glass had fallen in or something. So a lot of local people would come to the village church or a building because they wanted to see the building saved and so on. And they weren't in any way aficionados of Bach or violin playing. And I can remember this guy coming to me, you know, tears in his eyes, and said, you know, well, I thought an evening of solo violin was going to be a bit, but nothing prepared me. You know, this would be after hearing that extraordinary human journey of grief and uplift, and then grief again in the D minor chaconne. And what I did was then take those experiences through. We managed to get into Abbey Road on 6 different days to record in that big studio #1 there. Produced again by Stephen Frost, who had he was a connection to dear Tony Harrison, who I mentioned before, who had by that stage passed away. But a great place to play, an amazing sound, playing in a huge room. We dimmed the lights, you know, so I was literally playing sort of in the dark.
At Abbey Road.
At Abbey Road, yeah. Literally as if, you know, with one little light, playing almost entirely. I did performances, and I generated a huge amount of material, but they were all performance based. In other words, you know, we'd have a quiet time and then pick it up and just play from beginning to end. I think maybe 1 or 2 movements we did some smaller versions, just single movements, but almost entirely made up of complete performance.
Full takes, because the intonation on that record is remarkably good.
Well,
now, talking about intonation and great violins, Tom, can you tell us a little bit about the violin on the screen?
Oh yeah, this is this amazing Niccolo Amati. This is one of the great pieces of Renaissance technology. You know, it's come down. If it hadn't been for Stradivarius, Niccolo Amati would be the #1 maker. And very interestingly, his relationship to Stradivarius is somewhat ambiguous. Was a pupil of his briefly. It's not clear, maybe. But Niccolo Amati, who had the great fortune to live to a great age, he lived into his 80s and survived several bouts of plague, which were going through northern Italy at the time. He was left in his 30s and 40s as kind of the last man standing of the craft. So through him, all the great makers of the next generations came. And his mastery. Now, interestingly, this violin is one of not that many of his works which is entitled, or makers and restorers call it, his grand pattern. And that crucially was when he kind of slightly flattened the arching. His most of his instruments are highly arched, that is to say they look quite sort of plump, if you like, and they produce this very sweet, very beautiful sound, but which is generally thought not to project much. With this grand pattern, which for some reason we don't understand, he ceased making. So he went on into old age making, went in a way returning to the older method. But this was the model which Strad was most interested in and which he went on to develop. But there is something very special about the violin, this violin. It has a depth of personality which is extraordinary, a very, very rich bass end, a very pure and beautiful high harmonics and soprano sound as well. It's just a colossal personality. And
so could we be really crass? Have you had it valued lately?
Well, yes, I have, and it's hovering around the 6 to 7 figure sort of area.
Wow.
So,
congratulations. I know that you worked hard to get that violin.
Well, yeah, and it came to me originally as on a loan through a very wonderful and philanthropic previous owner who very much wanted me to play it for a while. And then, of course, he came to me at some stage back in the early 90s and said, "Tom, I'm going to have to sell the violin. Would you be in a position to buy it?" Well, no. But somehow I managed to cobble something together where I was able to kind of buy bits of it as we went along. And finally, by remortgaging everything, I was able to sort of.
Congratulations!
But it's gone up hugely, and I mean, it's been a handy investment, but it's an incredible companion through all my playing. Yeah.
So on to something, as they say,
Ellena Alberga, it says, yes.
Yeah, Ellena Alberga. Ellena Alberga was a composer I discovered before I knew that she was Tom's wife. And Ellena is the most remarkably gifted composer. I encourage everybody to stream her works. These string quartets are the first things I listened to. And I remember, do you remember when female conductors having no female was a thing? Now you can't swing a cat without having a female conductor. And it was the same with composers. And, there was a lot of nonsense talked about, in the wokey stuff. But boy, Ellena is the real deal. It's not squeaky gate music, as Jimmy Galway calls it. It's completely beautifully structured, but it's modern and it's forward thinking. So, Tom, can you tell us a little bit about Ellena and how long you've been married? And
well, Ellena Alberga and I have been married for over 30 years now. And when we first got together, so this was back in the late 80s, early 90s, Ellena really probably wouldn't have called herself in the first sentence a composer. She was very much a pianist. She'd had a deep relationship with contemporary dance, which was really how her kind of composition got reignited. As a child, she'd written, but as she would say, there weren't role models. So she went to the academy on a scholarship. She grew up in Kingston, Jamaica. She went to the Royal Academy on a scholarship as a pianist, doubling as first study singing. And gradually, her sort of compositional genes were reawakened when she started improvising for contemporary dance classes under the legendary Robert Cohan. And that sort of led to various choreographers asking her to write pieces initially for dance. And it was immediately apparent, I think, to some people close that she had this rare thing, which is to write a piece of music which takes you on a real journey over a long span. And the world of contemporary music is not an easy one to read, to find your way through, but I always had faith in her straight away. And it's been one of the great joys to see now, finally, in the last sort of 5 or 6 years, her music getting out there and moving people, and doing what music can really do, which is
the audiophiles among us, and we have a lot of audiophiles, including myself and all the guys on this panel, can see that recording company that Ellena recorded for, Lyrita. That's a great audiophile company. But she's she's doing the violin concerts, but she chose Thomas Bowes as a violinist. I wonder why she did that.
Yeah. Well, she didn't make life easy for me. That first concerto,
I bet she didn't.
It's a huge piece. And actually, dear Joey Swenson, who we mentioned before, that was really his inspiration, was to commission that piece when he was music director with Scottish Chamber Orchestra. I think he kind of was a little bit ahead of the game there in sensing here's a really fantastic composer. She needs a commission. And how about she write you a concerto, Tom? I can remember him saying that. Wow. So that was a kind of, dream idea, which came into reality thanks to Joey. And she wrote a fantastic violin concerto, and then added to that more recently with a second violin concerto, which is, whereas the first is a very big beast of 3 movements, I think slightly over 30 minutes. The second concerto is a much more poetic structure, one long movement of about just over 20 minutes, based on the Narcissus myth and Ovid's retelling of that. And I think she listened a little bit to Ted Hughes's translation of Ovid. So it's kind of interesting that she chose the solo violinist as the encapsulation of of Narcissus. We all know
Tom is the opposite of that. As I said to Jan, he's devoid of ego. And boy, listen, Tom, just before we get cracking here, so you're now acting as Ellena's manager?
Well, I pretty much, I thought somebody's got to do this because her music needs to get out there. So over the last 5 or 6 years, I've been sort of just doing the nuts and bolts stuff. Really, that's all I'm good enough to do. But she needed somebody to do that, and it's great to see her name getting around now. Yeah.
It sounds like some of the folks have did their homework and listened to some of your recordings. Listen to Ellena's recordings. We'll talk about them again probably next week. Actually, there's no show next week. It'll be the week after. Tom, can you just tell us some of the films that you've led?
Oh my goodness! Of course, I'm the last person in the world. This is my unlooked for career. It's exactly what. Now, who was it who said life is what happens while you're making other plans? Was that
John Lennon, wasn't it?
It was John Lennon. Yeah. Well, this is what This is what kept me going. When I left the orchestral scene as a job. I left the LPO. I then got a concertmaster position with the London Mozart Players. I joined a string quartet. And I had all that going, but I sensed that I had more. There was more in the bank that I wanted to, extract, if you like. And it needed time again with myself, with my own playing. So I withdrew from that. And of course, somebody said, "Well, what you need to do is to just send your name around to the session fixers in London, and you could get in. You can get some work. It'll tide you over." Well, little did I know that 30 years later. I love the recording studio, the film music world. I love working with composers, and now I've got the luxury of more or less being able to sort of choose which composers, and it's they who bring the projects to London, so I mean next week, for instance, I'm working with a marvelous Spanish composer, Alberto Iglesias, who does. Yeah, you'll know, and that'll be an absolute joy. The fact that it's film music is in a way, sadly, has become less clear to the process in the way it's undertaken these days. One is, the whole thing of stemming. Very often the technical demands are that in order to control the music in post-production, you're often recording things in a very disjointed kind of way. Not everybody does that, but sadly that's become so that it's become a more abstracted kind of process. But I adore working for various composers. Who is it who's coming? I can see something else coming up on the horizon. Name's gone out of my head, but anyway, no, it's a joy to work, and
it's almost 2 a.m. for you, Tom.
It's almost 2 a.m. But the thing is, what one has to be prepared for is to pitch up at the studio, sit down at 10 o'clock, open the folder, and start recording. Yeah,
that's right.
And then
no mistakes.
Yeah, and no mistakes. And then sometimes at 10 to 5. Oh, we don't have the money to go into overtime. Oh, there's just one quick violin solo we'd like you to do. Bang! You've got 10 minutes to do it. And it's going to be listened to by more than a few people. So studio work comes with a kind of special version of a strange pressure, because it could all feel so comfortable. You're with people, colleagues who you get on well with, the atmosphere, and then suddenly you're put on the spot. So,
The videos from Interstellar with the filming the orchestra and the organ at Temple Church, which is
those are extraordinary.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Listen, Tom.
It was Alan Silvestri, whose name I couldn't remember. Don't let him hear me say that. But
he's a fantastic composer.
He is a marvel and great.
Robin Hood. He did the score. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Tom, I cannot tell you what a delight it is. Jim and I spent. I think I spent 3 years with you. Tom's. Jim, how many years did you spend with Tom at Trinity? Were you 2 or 4 years with him?
What year did you go, Tom?
Well, I was there. I was kind of in the building from about 78, Jim, until I think officially I left in 84. So I was almost there for about 6 years.
Oh, right. I was there 79 to 83.
Yeah. So, but you wouldn't have seen that much of me because, of course, dear Professor Katoda had me slaving away at home all those hours. But
that video. The video I've got. The Trinity Orchestra
with dear Bernard.
With Bernard, with the violin section in that orchestra is just unreal. You, Nick Fallowfield, Duncan Riddell, all these guys are top violinists. A lady named Cynthia Fleming. She was the concertmaster of the BBC Concert Orchestra. I mean, just incredible violin section. So every time I put that video on, and you hear them and sight reading that Dvorak, it's like, oh my God!
That was how it set up, wasn't it? Because it was Bernard.
We sight reading everything.
Work in the profession, and I remember he gave a lovely sort of thing. He said, you'll find that work is very varied. You'll be doing this. And I was there thinking, no, I won't be doing that. I'll be doing, as one does at that age, And then you find out that the music
Got to
profession,
make a living. Got to make a living.
you have to make a living in it, but it's a rich and wonderful thing. Yeah.
Tom, I know that Tom and I we try to get it together, but just getting an orchestra to record the Elgar, I think Tom, first of all, the Elgar is very difficult to conduct, so I'd have to work at it. But my God, your Elgar would be amazing. One day, Tom, Jan's independently wealthy, which is great. So I'm going to borrow some money off Jan, I think.
Be careful what you say.
Listen, Tom, have a wonderful evening. Give my best to your lovely wife. I loved talking to her the other night. And I'm just to say thank you on behalf of the Peanut Gallery, all the people doing questions. And you can watch this on the rerun, so you can see the questions, some of them. And we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome, Anthony. And I can still hear your flute solo in Daphnis and Chloe.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
Hands were shaking. All I remember is the red light goes on, and it's like I could feel my heart like boom, boom, boom. It's just anyway. Fun and games. What a career we've had at Trinity. It was just the most amazing time, Jim?
It was an amazing time.
It was wonderful. We've all had great teachers and wonderful.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tom, have a great night, my friend.
Fantastic. Absolutely wonderful to speak to you, dear man. Yeah.
All the very best to you.
Lovely to see you.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Jim, any questions?
Oh yes, I just got.
Poor Tom.
Oh,
And more recordings, Tom. Okay, and more playing. And my best to everybody.
Bless your heart.
Okay, bud. All the best.
all right.
Good night.
No, wonderful. Oh my God.
Mm.
Tom is so, like you said, he's kind of devoid of ego. He's such a lovely, warm human being. But the man is a monster violinist. I mean, and Katona had a big thing to do with that. So, So let me just go to, before I get to you guys, let me just go to some of the questions and the comments, because I've not had a chance to. This has been an interesting night tonight. Granbury, Alan says, I love hearing a conductor called Joey. Well, it's actually Joseph Swenson. And I think Jack, who's with us now, said an all-star roster. That's the people that Jim, Tom's played with everybody. He's led every orchestra. He led the LSO, LPO. He's done sessions with everybody. And then let's have a look. Oh yeah, Flaming Roof. My Bruckner 7-line is spectacular. I thought it was. 11 sides, all good. Thank God for that. I just ordered it off eBay. They promised me it'll take it back if you could, but it'll be my third box, third time lucky. And I've also ordered the carry-on box because I want to do some videos for this channel and stuff. So we got that coming. That'll be fun. Let's see, what do we got here? Joey, of course, says thank you, Tom. And then Alan says glad to know Ella's music, which I'm streaming now. The string quartets are very good. She's a wonderful composer. I was talking to Tom, and he's too much of a gentleman to say. And during the horrible times of cancel culture and woke stuff, orchestras wanted to get a perfect specimen, a composer, a female composer, an African-American female composer, a 3'4", whoever, whatever the stupid, monikers they had to have on them. So they chose the Philadelphia Orchestra chose a woman named Florence Price. And I reviewed it. I got sent the CD with the Philadelphia Orchestra on Deutsche Grammophon. Boy, they're really going to push this lady. So I played it for Jan in the car over a long road trip, and we were listening, and I tried and tried and tried. And I heard Jerome Kern arranged by Dvorak without any disrespect. It's fine. It's fine. And some people might like it. But there was a lot of PR going to push this music. Her salon music was really excellent. But the large canvas kind of eluded her. But the lady had, she was played by the Chicago Symphony, and she had a very difficult life, and of course systemic racism. So of course promote, and that's fine. But there were other composers like Ellena Alberga and other composers that should get equal amount of promotion, and that they haven't. There's a reason for that. So anyway, if you read my review of I'm very proud of it, of the Florence Price symphonies in Audiophilia. It's an outlier. I'm fair but critical. The orchestra sounds like they're sleepwalking through it because it's very simple music. Read it for yourself. There are other reviews that were saying that she's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I tried many times, but anyway, check it out. But do check out Ellena's music. She's a really wonderful composer. And Loki Tio, is getting hugs and kisses from Ozzy. There's Loki. Hey, Piccolina. So let's go back. First of all, again, thank you and apologies for my tardiness at the beginning. So, Carl, how's things in Indonesia? What's going on?
Well, I'm beginning to think ahead. I got less than 3 weeks to go, and I'm flying back to New York on a very long journey.
I want you home.
So I'm kind of, it's a lot in my mind with all the craziness going on too. But yeah,
yes,
so that's and the kids are out of school, and so we're doing stuff together, hanging out with their friends, and just trying to socialize and do things as well before we go. And, of course, today it's pouring rain, but that's unusual, very unusual.
Wonderful. We're going to get to the vault in a second. I know there's always a throwdown, Scott. I know Jim has a few records to show. Very, very good records. Before we get to the vault with Scott, Jack, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm outside tonight.
Yeah, where are you? Look at that.
I'm on my back of the house. Get out, get a little fresh air. Yeah, the air conditioning's nice, but the fresh air is it's nice. It's warm, but it's not
Eastern Tennessee.
Yeah, not it's not Scott Wilson humid yet. That'll be tomorrow.
Yeah.
I was going to make one comment to Tom. I didn't want to ask a question at the end.
Oh no!
I'm
just teasing my amazing friend. That's all.
He's showing the violin, and he's talking about how great the violin is, that it's $1 million. And, it ain't the instrument.
It's a player. You're right. You're absolutely right, Jack. It's the absolute player.
I tell my photography, I got to have a couple friends of mine, I think, that may be listening. My photography friends who listen to classical music, I think, may be hanging out here today. I always tell my photography people,
hey guys,
that if I bought Ernest Hemingway's typewriter, I would not write like Ernest Hemingway.
That's right. It's just a tool, but it's a nice one.
His Telemann pieces are unbelievable.
Beautiful, aren't they? And Tom, like I said, it's his intonation, its tone. It's also his musicianship. He's unbelievable. Anyway, Jack, thank you again. A lovely shout out in Jack's wonderful video today about two new LPs. One new LP and one older LP, and also talked about the Victrola and said some lovely things about our dear Scott and some lovely things about our dear Audiophilia Peanut Gallery. So that was lovely. Thank you so much, Jack.
We get it to records. I'll give you a little more on the Sibelius.
We're going to. That's right. And I said, and Jan goes, because it was so nice. If you put people up like Joey and you acknowledge them, and Saturday Records on Discogs. Thanks for staying up. People like that. And Jack said, it was so sweet. And we're listening, and Jack starts talking about how you don't mind if I say this, do you?
No.
And he said, yeah, well, Audiophilia, we have a live stream, and it's really wonderful. And we have a nice team that go up there. And he goes, well, actually, it's not my team, but we love that, Jack. And Jan starts laughing. She went, Jack is such a lovely man. You are part of our team, Jack. We love that.
Knowledge about what you're talking about. I'm like
it's not about that.
It's not about that. It's about
the camaraderie. And like I said, there's never any bad questions.
No.
Anyway, Jack, it was great. A great video today. So I encourage you to go to Jack's channel, Straight Talk with Jack, and watch his video and like it and subscribe. Okay, so we're going to get to the records in a second. We're going to get Scott up. Scott's been very patient. Let me just get Scott up.
That was
okay, Scott, here we go, buddy.
Okay. You had talked about trying to find a Four Seasons. And I said, I don't think I have it. And I was in the vault and I came across, I have all 50 volumes of this.
Oh, wow.
This is the Franklin Mint. record sets. There's 2 records in each one. And I looked in the booklet and I said, oh, there is 4 Seasons in here. It's Zuckerman. It's on CBS. And I haven't listened to it. I just found it tonight when I was in there. So I don't know if you guys know about this series, but it was quite well done. Today, I got to listen to this. I heard Jack had mentioned it on his channel.
Yeah, wonderful.
This is Johnny Hodges. Wow, what a gorgeous record. That's
Great recommendation, Jack.
Yeah, I'll probably do a
everybody
review.
looks at they're Charlie Parker disciples, and man, you want to hear where Charlie Parker came from? Listen to Johnny Hodges.
Yeah,
Amazing.
That sound.
yeah. I've got a couple here. I've got the back-to-back and an earlier classic records one of side by side. I think it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, the common old stuff from the vault. I just picked some things that I came across.
I love that record. I have it. It's amazing.
That's a later Deutsche Grammophon. I have a few monos of stuff I have in stereo. I saw these. And of course, that's a famous one. I don't mind hearing them in mono either. I put this together.
Jim put me onto her. Yeah, go ahead, Scott. Tell us about that record.
Oh, well, the cover was trashed, so I cut out the cover and I stuck it on but that's on the Westminster stereo label.
Oh,
Yeah,
beautiful.
that's a pretty cool record.
Jim, what happened to Erica Marini?
Well, Erica Marini made her debut with the Berlin Philharmonic and Arthur Nikisch about 1916 or something, when she was about 12 or 13 years old. And she studied the Bruch violin concerto with Max Bruch. And her recording of it with, I think it's with, the nutcase, the New York guy, what was his conductor used to turn up with a loaded gun.
Rodzinski.
Rodzinski used to threaten the New York Philharmonic, he'd shoot them, you know. But he recorded that in London with the RPO. I don't know if he did it was the Tchaikovskys of the RPO as well. But the sad thing about Erica Marini is she lived in Manhattan, Lower East Side, I think, and she had a Strad violin, which her last illness when she went into hospital, the violin got stolen.
Oh.
And it's never, ever been recovered. It's disappeared. And it's the only Strad, really, that has been stolen, which has never reappeared. But it's never reappeared. So, you know, and all those recordings she made are on that Strad violin. So it's a bit like Tom with his, you know, Amati. You know, I mean, you become associated with an instrument, and, you know, sadly, her instruments disappeared. But
how'd you like the recording, Scott?
Oh, I loved it. I love it.
Good sound?
Fairly good sound, yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah. This is
yeah, I love Erica Marini. She's fabulous.
Yeah. I have 2 by her. This is for Joey. Joey kind of suggested some Rubinstein Chopin. This is another one.
Beautiful.
I love these. I mean, to me, he's the best for that. This was I think this is probably a second copy that I had out there. Probably out there because the cover's a little tattered, but what a great record that is. I found a couple of Mercuries out there.
Oh, beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And I think I've shown this one either on my videos or on the channel or here. But this is an
I don't remember. Yeah.
Look at that repertoire.
Is that yeah? Hinaster is a great composer.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fascinating record. It really is, and it sounds great. This is a harp record. It's a harp concerto with Zableta.
Oh, Nicanor Zableta, he's wonderful. It
Yeah.
really is. What harp concerto is he doing?
I don't think I can pronounce it.
Puelgia.
Yeah. And it's on the Tulip label.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Whenever I see a record with him, I always get that. Here's a couple other monos.
Oh,
RCAs.
that's a great Scheherazade. Underrated
Yes,
because
it
of
is.
the other RCA. It's very well played and
I think
beautifully
so.
recorded.
Another mono here.
Oh, I've not seen that. How's that sound?
The mono, I think the stereo is a little better in this case.
It's a big piece. Jim's
Yeah.
played that about 3,000 times, right, Jim? And it never ends.
It's one of my least favorite pieces.
For string players, it just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
Interminable. Yeah.
It's a more latent recording, but Symphony Hall can be a little problematic sometimes.
Without the people in there, yeah, it sure can.
Yeah. This is that famous Pictures on Mercury, but this is the reissue.
Who's the orchestra?
The orchestra is Chicago, Kublik.
So is that? Let me see the repertoire. You just hold it down. So that's not his. He did a mono Pictures, right, on RCA.
It is. This is the mono recording, rechanneled for stereo. So avoid
like the plague. Maybe they did a good job, but
they didn't do a bad job. But it's yeah. I'd rather have the mono.
Oh, Jim, look at that.
Oh yeah.
I think Scott's trying to get ready to trump you tonight with your wonderful records coming out.
I found this in a charity shop in London.
Well,
90 pence.
That's a
This
great
is-
recording, by the way.
Last but not least is this. It's the only one I have on this particular label.
Oh, look at that.
The cream color, this gorgeous label.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're
How is
rare.
that?
They're rare around here. Sibelius Symphony No. 1 with Malcolm Sargent and the BBC.
Yeah, Sergeant. Oh, boy, the stories, they're just horrible.
He looks a little stern.
That's his death mask. That's
Is
Sibelius.
that Sibelius or Sargent?
That's Sibelius's death mask, I think, or maybe Kosh of Ottawa to go. So now, great,
that's
Scott, amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim, over to you. I'm going to put you big. I think Jim's
Okay.
Here we go.
right, we got a little selection tonight. The first one, of course.
Just bring your screen down a bit, mate. Just bring it down a bit. Oh, that's good. That's good. You're good. You're good.
Right, first one is our old friend Meredith Davis.
Oh,
doing
our teacher, our wonderful teacher.
Requiem. Heather Harper and John Shirley Quirk from the RPO.
He's amazing for Delius.
And I
And
mean,
everything.
this is a fact. This record that I bought, I don't think it's ever been played. I don't think it's ever come out of its
Look at that.
wrapper. It's the old, well, it's upside down, but there you go. It's hardly. I think it might have been played once, if that. I mean, it doesn't even look as if it's been played. Anyway, there we are. That's that one. Then I've got
Amazing.
some of these turnabout records. Charles Ives, Holiday Symphony.
Oh yeah, that's a good,
Dallas Symphony, Donald Johannes.
Oh, yeah.
Great sound.
And
Great
it's
sound.
actually
Great sound.
it's not even sort of as you can see, it's again, I don't think it's ever been, it doesn't look as if it's been played very much. But I don't know, Scott, you'll know more about these.
yeah, that's like a little bit later pressing of that.
Right.
Yeah, but that's an audiophile quality recording. If you look at it back, they really go into the detail about the recording.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Nonsuch. Now I've heard of Nonsuch, but I've never really. But it's Stravinsky Les Noces. It's Pierre Boulez with the orchestra of the Théâtre National de l'Opéra Paris. And again,
How does it sound?
I don't. It sounds good. It sounds good to me. I don't think it's ever been played. I mean, it's. There you go.
a lot of those are mastered by Robert Ludwig, so they can sound good.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
I think it's now interesting. This is still in its wrapper, and this is Thomas Beecham music of Delius.
yeah, that's it. That
Oh.
record has a lot of problems,
And
unfortunately.
it's Seraphim.
Yeah, it's the cheap label of CBS. It's an original 1957 or 58 stereo Capitol. Went to EMI, got an incredible pressing, but that recording, the tape has a lot of dropouts on it.
But
Unfortunately,
is that the same recording as the one on EMI with Beecham?
yeah, but yeah, it's just been yeah. There it is, Scott. Let me just show Scott for a second.
This is the Capitol. I think it's the same record.
No,
Same
that's
piece.
it's no, that's a different record, but it's all
Oh.
the same,
Oh,
all the same
okay.
stuff, all the same stuff.
Yeah, Royal Philharmonic.
And then there's another Seraphim one, which is Beecham doing Heldenleben, which I'd never seen on record before.
I've got that. It's the only high Q pressing that I think is really good.
Oh,
We
good.
mastered it.
I haven't heard
Yeah.
that, unfortunately.
It's
And
really
then
good.
There's a classic.
Oh,
Mozart,
that's
Carlberg.
fabulous. That's
yeah.
And
fabulous.
it's again, it's sort of. There we are. It's the it doesn't have the washing line on it like the others.
Right, that's the later one. Yeah.
The washing line. Read the two lips. Silly bugger.
Now, okay, do you want the piece de resistance?
Okay,
Oui.
here we go.
Okay, this
Well, the
is
Meredith one is pretty good.
this is the original 1951 pressing of Walton Symphony No. 1 in B minor,
You bastard. It's Watson
Conducted.
conducting.
conducted
Oh,
by
man.
William Walton, the Philharmonia.
Wow.
It was only ever released once.
Hmm.
The vinyl show it's like a dinner plate. This
Oh, look at that.
it is so well you can't. It's like a dinner plate. And again, there's no scratches on the label. There's nothing. It's a bit dusty, but it comes in its own original open flap thing. But I just love the front of it. It's just, I didn't realize that's what HMV recordings were
Oh
sold.
yeah.
at.
All the Furt Wranglers, everything.
Yeah.
So
Jer-
you know,
Jeremy says, I think that Ein Heldenling was Beecham's last recording. It may well be. Stephen Starrick from Toronto was the concert master.
all right.
And the Heldenling is fantastic. But the high Q is very, very good. The other high Qs, stay away. They're dreadful.
Okay. And then finally, I've just got a little. I'm just taking the price off here. Berlioz's Overtures, Decker, Ace of Clubs,
Oh,
Paris Concert
interesting.
for Albert Wolff. I don't
Mm.
know.
Yeah.
It's but again, it's a lovely record and it's in very good condition. I mean, it's virtually, again, I don't think it's been out the sleeve more than once. And 50p. So there we are. So quite a nice little haul this week.
Yeah.
Fantastic, Jim. I love the Meredith Davis. Meredith was he was such a lovely man, and I remember he heard us once in the library practicing at Wind Quintet, and we were doing the Bach the A minor sonata. Dum, 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 it's a beautiful, famous. I'm not going to horrify you by singing. But it was originally for organ and a few other things. And he came in, he said, "Hello, gentlemen and ladies." It was Susanna Scott as well. "Oh, hi, Meredith, how are you?" He says, I said, "When did you come in?" He said, "Oh, okay." He says, "I'm just wondering, would you like some free coaching?" Said, "Yes, please." And he was wonderful. I mean, just some of his ideas, because he was a great organist as well. So he knew that piece backwards. And the way he coached us on that was amazing. And he was just wonderful. Do you remember when there was a big fight between Bernard and Meredith? Because Bernard wanted to was doing the Rite of Spring, which I was playing in, and then he also did the Spring Symphony. And but Meredith said, "No, I'm going to conduct that." And Meredith was the principal, and boy, Bernard's nose it's right out of joint. But Meredith was a great conductor. He kind of took the Vancouver Symphony and put them on the map.
Mm.
He did the world premiere of the War Requiem by Benjamin Britten, and he was a principal at Trinity for Jim's and my years. And he was a wonderful, wonderful man. Okay, Jack, did you say you had a record to show?
Well, I showed this on my video today, and
Well, you can show us.
so this, I say I'm never going to buy another record on eBay, and I'm never going to buy another record on eBay. Well, this was $10. It said sealed, mint, the whole bit. It was sealed on the outside. When I opened it, the record that was inside still had some of the plastic on it, but it was opened and it had been played. So the guy who sold it to me sealed it up himself. It's really VG plus, but what a great recording! And I know this has been reissued. You can still buy this, the reissue from Acoustic Sounds. I think they still have them. The 100 milligram, I think, done a few years ago. But what a great recording. It's a little fast. Kind of the tempos aren't the way I'd like to hear them, but it's a really good recording, and for a 1966 record, it's amazing. The green little sticker there means that it's been cleaned by my record cleaning machine.
Well, we got Jack on. Sorry, go ahead.
Just a question.
Oh, hang on. Let me get you back up. Hang on.
This is a DMM mastered recording. It's a little high. High end is a little high. Anybody can tell me about what they think of this recording, or anybody know that?
It's probably had an interesting history. It's got an Angel pressing. It was an EMI pressing with an Angel sticker for American sales, but it was pressed in England, and it's probably done it at Abbey Road as DMM. So, Scott, what do you think of DMMs? I always find them a little bit bright and a little harsh.
A little bright, yeah. I don't usually go for them at all.
Yeah, very harsh.
Yeah.
Well, but Bob Rowley was great for Sibelius, so.
Yeah.
But a lot of those stereo Sibelius stuff was from sort of 57, 58 when this EMI started, wasn't it? And a lot of them were recorded in the Free Trade Hall in Manchester, which is dreadfully dry. And I think they tried to make the recording warmer by doing them in stereo, I think. But I mean, his Tchaikovsky symphonies are fantastic, but oh dear, the dryness of the acoustic of the Free Trade Hall it's a shame, really.
Well, you heard Gareth talking about the Barbican and playing in the music variant. Like, it just flows. Do you remember the BBC studio we had to do that recording in?
Oh yeah.
We were pushing. And we did the War Requiem at the Festival Hall, and it's just pushing all the time, just dreadful. Anyway, if you don't mind, I've got to come up and do a couple of things, show a couple of records. But I want to say congratulations if they're watching. They said they may watch, to the winners of the Audiophile Channel 5,000 subscriber draw. With huge thanks to our great friend Jack Graham for giving us a record, the Bruckner 4, Deutsche Grammophon, the original source, and for our dear friend Angie, for donating a Rega Planer 3 turntable with the exact cartridge and 6 records from Angie's collection. That'll be something. So the winners are Paul McDowell on the Instagram, and Nathan Lyle, who's a trumpet player from I think he's at Johns Hopkins. You be happy to know that, Jack? Johns Hopkins. So 2 very lucky people and wonderful people. Paul McDowell gets the record, and Nathan Lyle gets the turntable. So congratulations, and thank you for your support. Now I'm just going to go to Big for a second, just before we close up. I want to first of all talk about one new issue. We didn't get to the new releases. This is a new one I just got today. This is reference recordings. It's going to be the Pittsburgh Symphony with Manfred Honeck. Do you guys know Manfred Honeck? Anybody fans?
No, but Pittsburgh is doing some great work.
Yeah, this is the reference recordings that they get them done for it's called Fresh or something. So it's reference recordings. And his Bruckner 9 was absolutely incredible with the Pittsburgh Symphony. They've got a lot of great players. The principal flute just decamped for the Boston Symphony. Their leader went to Berlin. So they got some great players. Bill Caballero on horn, he's a wonderful horn player. Pete Sullivan from Montreal, great trombone player. So they know their stuff. So the Brooklyn Line was great. So I have great hopes of this. I'm not a fan of his other conducting. I find it very mannered sometimes. The Tchaikovsky 4, I just couldn't even listen to. But his Brooklyn Line was great. So this portends great things. So I will review this, and it'll be up in Audiophilia. Well, I'm going on vacation, so I'm not sure it'll be up this week or next week, but it'll be up at some time. Have a look. And finally, before we say goodnight, on an eventful night with my starting streams on time, is this amazing record. This is the record that Angie did the most beautiful review on. And Angie's mom's not being well, and Angie's been at the hospital and then getting home late. So she was listening to music, and she put this Mahler 3 on. It was in her collection. This is with Horenstein, Yasha Horenstein, in the LSO from 1970 on Unicorn. Horenstein mortgaged his house to do this recording. And it's an incredible recording. It's not just beautifully played and beautifully interpreted, which it is by Horenstein. He really makes a beautiful way with Mahler 3, which can be a little unwieldy. But the Unicorn recording, Bob Auger, I'm not sure, Auger, not sure how you pronounce his name, did the recording, and he's incredible. Very, very good. The recording's good. It was at Fairfield Halls, and it's just beautiful. The vinyl is it comes with a lovely booklet, lots of great photographs of the orchestra. Dennis Wick on first trombone does the trombone solo. You won't get better than that. I think it's Barry Tuckwell on horn. So all the good stars. And then you can see the vinyl. It's Unicorn Kanchana, founded in London in 73 or 74 by an ex-police officer. So you can see the Unicorn. There it is, Unicorn Kanchana. But I got this near mint on eBay. Very lucky. And when Angie says something, you listen. And Angie was absolutely right. I did make a mistake, though. I thought it was Arlene Auger was the singer. It's not. It's Norma Proctor. She's wonderful.
Yeah.
But Angie, you are so right about that record. I'm not sure there's any left on eBay or Discogs. Try and get a near mint copy. This cost me $30. That's all. Don't pay more than $30 for it. But it's for someone who kind of came late to Mahler 3, and I did, much to the chagrin of Charles Brown, who thinks my views on Mahler 3 was an idiot. But I'm actually falling in love with Mahler 3.
Can I give you my view on that record?
Yes, I'm going to do.
I don't have the record. I just have the CD of it. So I'm sure that the record sounds infinitely better. It grows on you. The first time I listened to it, I listened to it 3 times, really, in the last 2 weeks. My go-to on that piece is still Bernstein on the Sony Classic reissue. It's done with New York Phil. It's done quite well. But the Horenstein really grew on me. The first movement, I didn't hear a lot of tempo changes the first time. There are some, but it really you have to listen to that recording more than once.
That's for sure.
He really does a great job. The Bernstein knocks it out of the box. It's Bernstein and Ma, it's all good. But
Charles
is
really Bernstein. Charles is Bernstein.
Yeah.
And my father was with Bernstein's, the early one, 67 or something, 63.
I would put this in my top 3.
Well,
It's really a good recording.
Charles always quotes Tony Duggan, who's a fine writer, and on Mahler, and he says the Horenstein is in the top 2 or 3, like you said. And again, I don't know the piece that well. When I hear bim bam, kids singing, I'm like, oh, for Christ's sake, he's got the wife up there, having affairs with 25 people. He's down in a hut. Mahler's worked his ass off all year conducting, and then at the Vienna State Opera, comes to the hut. He goes there. He's composing it in a shed while his wife's up there screwing some writer or something. So the poor man, right? He's got a heart condition. So, but once you start listening,
it was Walter Gropius.
Yeah, well, that's right.
A good name to have the phone.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So poor Mahler, with a bad heart and everything. But what Angie liked, the last one, it says, "What love tells me," and it's very beautiful. And so I listened like you did, Jack. I listened to it like 3 or 4 times all the way through, and it really has grown on me. It's a masterpiece. It really is. And for someone, young and under those conditions, amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've come to the end of episode 25. Can you believe that?
Wow.
That's amazing. That's because we're weekly, and I thought maybe we'll go from weekly to bi-weekly, or monthly. But no, we've got lots of guests coming. I will tell you that we have no show next week because I'll be in Ottawa with my little granddaughter, Flora, beloved Flora. And then we'll be back and we'll have a show. There'll be no guest. I'm not sure who the guest is going to be after that, but I know that I'm working on Hoffman for you. He's very happy and he wants to do it. Just getting him technically, his son does all this technical stuff. So we're working on it. But my friend Robert Wolfrey, Jim doesn't know him because he studied at Yale. But Robert's a clarinet player of the Cleveland Orchestra. I know there's a lot of Cleveland Orchestra fans here. So Robert's going to be coming on. And we've got some great guests coming up. Jerome Sabat, the tenor sax player. So it'll be wonderful. So we have lots more and lots of records. And of course, Scott's got 5,000 in that vault of his. And we're going to see every damn record in that vault if he kills us. Any parting thoughts, Scott, Carl, Jim, Jack?
Between Scott and Jim, you ought to do this like a sporting event. Have the first period, have it back and forth, and we can score the first, the second, and the third
build up
periods, or whatever.
Okay, I'm going to hold my best one for last next time.
So Joey, of course, says great show. Scott and I were thinking, Joey, you got to come up, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're so charming on your channel, and you're such a great supporter. We'd love to see you, all of you. Another one, Alan. If you got a horn coming out of your head and a patch over your left eye, we don't care what you look like. Just come on up, okay? Not you, I've seen you, Joey, right? But we don't know her. But Alan, thanks to the panel for another wonderful show. See you all in 2 weeks. Thumbs up to all. Thank you. Yes, please like and subscribe. Even Ivanov. That's the Cyrillic alphabet. We don't have a translator. But hello, if you're new, hello, welcome. There she is, Angelina.
Angie.
She says, "Go ahead, read it, Scott."
Hi, Scott. I have the same 50 great. What? 50 great vinyl material.
Yes.
I hate Franklin Mint. No. I hate to say that. I hate to say this, Scott, but I think Angie's being.
You think?
No, of course not.
No.
The love of our life. Angie, how are you, my love? I sent you, put the link up to come up, but it's really the end of the show. In 2 weeks. But we talked about your Mahler and your beautiful review. And, Jack and I got it immediately. I just want to show Angie.
I listened to one movement tonight on streaming. It's on YouTube if you want to listen to it.
Yeah, it's and that beautiful movement that you talked about, What Love Tells Me, the last movement.
Mm-hmm. That's what I listened to. Beautiful.
Isn't it gorgeous? It's beautiful.
Yeah. Ironic name in view of what was going on in the house,
Anyway, Ange, it's great to see you. Come on up next time, okay, my love? Okay, guys, we're just about done. Again, to the people who are going to be, I think the rerun just cuts it right at the beginning, so it's okay. They'll probably think, what the hell is he talking about? Talk about drinking, right? But I'd like to apologize again to the Peanut Gallery for waiting on it. It was only 4 minutes, but we do aim to go on time. As the downbeat comes down, right? Musicians know. Jack and I and Jim have done so many gigs that you have heart palpitations about being late for a gig. You just can't ever be late for a gig. I can't ever, right? You just can't. And if you are, I was only late for one gig when I was a student in London, and I went to my brother's wedding, his first wedding, and it was in Winnipeg. And I flew from London to Winnipeg. I arranged Pachelbel's canon. I played the flute for him, and it was wonderful, lovely wedding. I flew back, and I was jet lagged. And the next morning, with Meredith Davis, I was on the record at King's College Theatre. We were doing The Beggar's Opera by John Gay, and I was playing principal flute. 10:05, David Topless, the orchestra manager, Anthony, where the hell are you? It's 10:05, and I was still in bed, asleep. I didn't hear my alarm, anything. And I remember getting there. And as I walked in, sheepishly, the orchestra, as they do it on, hissed. They hissed me. So you just never. That's what they're going to do to Scott when Scott gets up at the beginning of this goddamn show and starts walking around to get cranberry cocktails. anyway, so I'm so sorry. I'm dead set against being late. So we'll be on.
Yeah.
Next time.
I know
Carl,
that.
will we see Carl again where he is, or will he be in New York for the next?
Good question. 2 weeks from now, should be. Yeah.
Well,
Oh, yeah,
please,
but you'll-
barely.
travel safe, Carl, and just
He'll be here. He'll be here.
safe trip and all of that.
But then he's coming home. He's going to be listening and writing. That's what he's gonna be
Yay.
doing. Forget those
That's what he
kids.
thinks.
Anyway, guys, just stick around for a sec. Thank you so much to everybody watching, and hello to the people going to watch on the rerun, and to our fabulous Peanut Gallery, Macadamia Gallery, Royal Circle, whatever you want to call them. And thanks again for your support. Have a great evening. Have a great week. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Can I?
Good night.
Can
All
I-
the best.